13 today. And the sermon title is entitled Behind the Scenes. So we're going to go behind the scenes of the world. So right now we've been studying Revelation. So it's written to the early church that is persecuted. And if you're visiting, one of the Christians can give you the notes. So Kevin or whoever it is, if you can email them their notes, tap them on the shoulder. But basically we've been studying Revelation. The early churches are going through an enormous amount of persecution. We've started to see who are the persecutors, what they're going to be doing, how terrible it's going to be. And the Christians are sitting there going, oh my goodness me, you've told we're going to be persecuted, we're not going to be protected physically, we've got to wait till heaven. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by this. Why is all this happening on the earth? Have you ever looked at the world and gone, it's a mess. It's a complete and utter mess. He goes, well, let's look at what's going on behind the scenes. It is amazing how many movies are about life in a parallel universe. Okay, that's because there is a parallel universe. You go, there is? Yes, well, where is God? He's in a parallel universe, to put it in a Marvel type concept. But as we look at this, as we go through what is Revelation 12 and 13, we'll see a common thing that's used in movies, which you'll go into the future, into the past, into the present, and back and forth. Why? Basically because everything that I'm about as an individual started with my father, my grandfather, and then the children are involved. And so my whole life is a continuum of what happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future. And that is what makes up me as a person. But it's also what makes up the church, is what's happened in the past, the future, where it's all going. So what happens in Revelation 12 doesn't necessarily happen in a day. This happens over weeks, years, even millenniums, as it were. And to put it into context, it's about persecution. So the persecution of God's people started to happen way before Jesus. And remember, the people that are hearing this message, for them it's all about Christianity. But of course, through the Old Testament, there was much persecution. Even from the Garden of Eden, all humanities have been engaged in a holy struggle where you see Adam and Eve and then you see Satan. Although we begin to live life in an innocent state, and it's great to see Paulina with a tiny little baby there. So we started like that. Yes, you were as cute as that one day. Okay, even Jordan was as cute as that one day. Okay, then he grew up. Okay. But where do we go wrong from that pure innocence to all the stuff that's gone through your heart, all the sin, how did you get there? How did we get there? So what people don't understand is you actually grew up with quite an innocent conscience. I mean, I remember kissing Kerry in front of our son Luke when he was a kid, and he went, Mom and Dad, Where do we go from that to I just want to kiss anything and get drunk and everything? What happened? Well, it was this little guy that appeared on your shoulder. Isn't it amazing how many people say, God spoke to me, but they don't say Satan spoke to me? You ever notice that? God told me this. Well, if God can speak to you, this little fella's been speaking to you all your life. What's his words? You go, what? I wish I could sleep with that woman. Can't wait to get drunk tonight. All that gossip. All of those thoughts is Satan on your shoulder going, he doesn't deserve that. Pull him down, pull him down. That woman, she thinks she's beautiful. She's not beautiful. I'm more pretty than she is. All of that has been going on. You've been going, yeah. She thinks she's pretty. She's ugly. Oh, look at me. That's you listening to this. You don't go, shut up, get away from me, you demon. You go, Yeah, you start speaking to him, don't you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, you don't realise that. But that's what's been happening. You go, well, I don't believe in the Bible. I love the quote from the movie The Usual Suspects. It says, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist. Yeah. Many atheists go, there's no God. But they absolutely believe in evil. They go, evil made me do it. But they don't want to put the devil on it, because as soon as you admit there's a devil, well, where does he come from? People don't go, well, who created the devil? They go, who created the earth and man and God? They don't go, who created the devil? Everybody accepts that he's there. I have seen evil. You see, he wants to deceive us. You know, one thing you've got to realize if you're a Christian here, now he stays on there. One thing you've got to realize as a Christian is, the greater your spiritual dreams, the harder Satan will come against you.
Yeah.
We forget that. We go, God, I really tried to do something great for you yesterday. I really wanted to go out and evangelize yesterday. I was genuinely, seriously excited about doing it. Then the dog broke its foot, and the only time the vet could see it was 1 o'clock, and this and this and this and this. I was just going, my day's turned to mud. But that's what happens as soon as you try and do something great. You know, if you don't set the tone for your day, the devil will. A small minority of us figure out that this is going on. And then we get the angel on the other side. You remember when you studied the Bible, you go, I've never been in so much emotional turmoil in my entire life. Somebody studies the Bible with you and go, man, this is overwhelming. Before I met you guys, I was at peace. I really was. Before you told me that lust was a sin, I was happy lusting. I did not feel guilt about it at all. Until you told me that what I was doing was a lie, I was happy lying. You know, and why is this so common in cartoons? You see Tom and Jerry, you see Shrek, or whatever it is like, don't do it, don't do it. Yes, do it, shut up. You know, why does the angel always have a sword and a shield in those things? It's just like peaceful little angel. But that's what's going on in reality. You know what? And when you make a choice to acknowledge that there is an angel on your side, all hell breaks loose. Satan doesn't hate unrighteous people. He hates righteous people. He hates righteous people. The prince of the underworld has one aim, and that is to destroy everything that tries to be righteous. And that includes you. He never sleeps. He never relaxes. He never takes a day off. He never slows down, and he never gets discouraged. He doesn't lose heart at your one great day of prayer and evangelism. He'll wait till tomorrow when you don't do your follow-up. He'll go, I'll give them 10 contacts because I know they won't call them. That's easy. You know what? Satan is truly amazing. Satan is so much more earnest than we are. He buys the opportunity while we start thinking about what is it going to cost us. He has no counting the cost to do. He's all in. He's all in trying to destroy you. Make no mistake about it, Satan is after you and me. But he can be defeated by any of us if we learn his schemes and how to fight him. The problem is people don't want to. People go, if I pick up the Bible, I'm going to have to admit that Satan is real, and I'm going to have to read about how he's coming after me. And when I do that, I'm going to have to do something about it. So you know what? I'm just not going to open up the credit card bill. I'm going to put it in the drawer and ignore it and hope the bank never comes after me. That's exactly what people do. You know, 2 Corinthians 11 says, in order that Satan might not outwit us, for we are not unaware of his schemes. A preacher's job is to make you aware of what is actually going in your life that you are ignoring. That's my job. So that's what this whole section is about. But point 1, Satan cannot prevail against the birth of Jesus, against his angels, and against his church. That's what we've got to understand. So in context, as we're reading this, the Christians are sitting there overwhelmed at the persecution when they're heading his way. And now he gets into this encouragement, which is, hey, Satan will not win. Why? Because it felt like he was winning. That's what it felt like to these people. So Satan can't prevail. First of all, Revelation 12:1, against the birth of Jesus. It says, a great and wondrous sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun and with the moon under her feet and the crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. The tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman that was about to give birth, so that he might devour her child the moment it was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And a child was snatched up by God and to his throne. The woman fled into the desert to a place prepared for her by God, that she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. You're like, whoa, what is this all about? Well, if you're joining us for the first time, well, you just missed 11 chapters of Revelation building up to this. So you're going to have to go back and read that. Okay, you're coming into the movie halfway through, sitting there going, who's that? What's that? Where's that going? Okay, just shows you should come to church every week. All right. Okay, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. All right, so what's going on here? Well, first of all, this description of this woman, it reminds us of Joseph in the dream having his 12 stars. It talks about Joseph's exaltation over his own family. The Jewish nation was then chosen to become this bride, this woman. And basically, God always refers to Israel as in a relationship with him in a marriage. Okay? So this huge red dragon then tries to kill this child. Well, that's born. Well, this is a depiction of Jesus being persecuted by Satan as he was born on the earth. And we know that he used Herod to try and kill Jesus. So Satan's purpose was to devour the church at his birth with the help of Herod, and therefore destroy the plan. The male child was born to rule the nations, Psalm 2 verse 9. But in order to rule the nations, he had to go back up to heaven. So as he goes back up to heaven, then what's left on earth is the woman, who is the church, and she then flees into the desert and is persecuted. So we know that, studying out Daniel and all the other numbers, the persecution of 1,260 days is a period of 3.5 years, which is a period of persecution. So what he's basically describing very quickly here is Satan, the war, the spiritual war, the coming of Israel, Jesus coming out of Israel, being born, prophesied, Jesus going back up to heaven, the church then being off and being persecuted. So what is the picture here? Satan wants to kill Jesus, but he didn't do it. He didn't succeed. I studied this book once. It's a great book on Satan and his kingdom and everything you need to know about it. And there were some things about the scriptures that, it made me really sort of understand. Do you ever wonder why in the Old Testament it seems like things aren't clear about the prophecies? You go, how did you get that to this? Well, understand this, that Satan had access to the scriptures. That's why when there was the temptation, he quoted scriptures to Jesus. So if Satan had actually figured out from the scriptures that Jesus needed to die and be betrayed by Judas, would he have entered Judas and got Jesus betrayed? No, he would have stopped it. So it had to be ambiguous so that Satan couldn't know what was actually going on. That's why Jesus said to the apostles, I'm opening up your eyes to what it really is. So now in retrospect, you can read the Old Testament and go, I get it now because I've now got the Old Testament and the New Testament. And that's why it made me go, well, now it becomes really, really clear. It had to be disguised from Satan, otherwise he would have got in. Why? Because there's this big, big battle going on. So we're presented with one of those dreamlike visions. The Old Testament woman gives birth to Jesus, and then we're left with the church and ready to come. So basically, Satan tries to kill Jesus, it doesn't work, so there's one victory. So the early church goes, amen, we know that, that's why we're Christians. Well, what about the dark forces? Because the battle is still going on. Does Satan win against archangels? It feels like he's winning in this world. Why? Because there are more people that are non-Christians than there are Christians. So we carry on in Revelation 12:7. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was held down, an ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth and his angels with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of Christ. For the accuser of our brothers who accused them before our God day and night, he's been hurled down. They overcame him but by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. And woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury, because he knows that his time is short. So you have a section here where you see Satan and Michael go against it in war. And here it says that there's a war in heaven. I don't think it's a literal war in heaven, because if you think about that, that means the civil war in heaven, which makes us think that God cannot control heaven. Well, when we know there's only peace and joy and there's no pain in heaven, that doesn't mean that this raging war went on. It's just basically communicating that, hey, when Satan rebelled, God is all powerful. They can't win against God. All right? So it's more of a symbolic vision that Satan cannot prevail and that he's sent to earth. You can read Luke 10:18, John 12:31, John 16:11 to see basically how his power is limited. Concerning the origins of Satan, well, at one time, absolutely, he seemed to have been an angel. And therefore, God created him to worship him and to be a servant. Just like he created us to worship God and be a servant. However, Satan went, I don't want to do that. I want to be independent. And it's amazing how we're given free will by God, and he allows us to choose the wrong things. I always, when I talk to atheists, I always go, you know what? You have the privilege of being an atheist because you live in a Christian country. You do, because God gives us free will, and Christian countries give us democracy, which is free will. But if you go to many atheist countries like North Korea, you're not given free will. You're not given free will about what to choose. And even as we study out Revelation, the people living in Roman times, they weren't given free will. If you didn't worship the emperor, that's it, you couldn't get a job. So what people really want is they want to be atheists in a Christian country. And that free will is only given by God. And we then have a choice to be grateful for it or ungrateful for it. We go, wow, you've given me free will. What an incredible privilege. I'm going to use that ability to do what's right rather than to do what's wrong. But he's not going to force anybody to love him. Come on. Michael is one of God's archangels, one of the ruling angels. There's others like Gabriel that could be mentioned. And in Revelation 12, Satan is described in several ways. He's described as a subtle servant who induces our oldest ancestors to sin. So Satan is very, very subtle. Satan won't come at you with a pitchfork. He'll come at you with gifts and kisses. It's as simple as that. You go, too often I've heard people go, God's given me this. You go, did you ask him? No, I just presumed it. I'd ask him if I were you. Absolutely. Satan's biggest lies come in the form of religion. Come on. Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. See, religion was created by Satan. So it appeals to our sinful nature. Think about it. If I was a man creating a religion, well, I'd make women second-class citizens. I'd be allowed to have many wives and concubines. I'd find another group of people that I could persecute so I could take their property and feel good about it. That could describe many movements, whether with a God or not, throughout history. And those that are living today. Whether it be called a church or called not. As opposed to the truth, which is all about self-sacrifice. Putting yourself last. The deceiver. He leads nearly the whole world astray. You know, the devil's voice is sweet to the ear, but poison to the soul. Just like the lies today. A credit card, sweet to the ears, I can have what I want when I want. Then you put it on that coat hanger, and often you never wear it. The only thing you wear is the bill on the credit card. That's the only thing you wear. You know, some of us seem especially vulnerable to his accusations. Accuser. He'll go, you know, you're useless. You're an idiot. You're a failure. Says who? The only thing that you can succeed or fail at is dying saved. That's it. Nothing on this earth matters. Right. So you lost your job. You failed at your job. You failed your degree. Can you imagine Judgment Day? So, you know, in 2021, Jamie, how did you do on that chemistry exam? I need to talk to you about that. I think that's a salvation issue. You know, what we get so messed up about, the only failure you can do is to die lost. Right. And the only success you can have in life is to die saved. Nothing else matters. We can try and save this planet, but last time I wrote, God is going to destroy it. And I'm not, you know, saying that we should go out and just mess it up. But you know what? If you spend your life trying to save it, well, the Bible says at some point he's going to destroy it. So you're actually fighting against the grain. Because he said that's basically the outcome. You've got to put your life into what really matters. Now, according to Revelation 12:11, our early brothers and sisters were victorious against Satan's deception. What were their keys to victory? It says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb. They understood what was important. The secure doctrine of how to live out our daily lives. They overcame the world by the word of his testimony. So what is that? They overcame the world by evangelizing. Why? Because that was his testimony. As you go out and evangelize, it makes everything come clear. First of all, you go, well, no one's really a Christian. People go, well, I think there's people, they're all Christians. Okay, come with me, let's evangelize. And as you evangelize, you meet all these religious people. You go, tell me, how many people did you speak to Jesus about in the last 12 days? They go, none. You go, how can you call yourself a Christian? I'm in hospital for 12 days. All right, maybe you're okay. Next. Okay, I'm not being legalistic, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, you start to ask people. Or have you ever you evangelized somebody? This is a real classic last week. So I met this guy, said, I love Jesus, I love Jesus. Oh yeah, I love Jesus. And I spoke to him for 15 minutes. Said, let's swap numbers. Great, gave me a false number. I went, I don't think he was a real Christian, do you?
Right.
Or somebody goes, I'm a Christian, get away from me. I'm a Christian, I got my church. I'm like, I don't think you are a Christian. I remember parking my car, and I was going to a staff meeting. I parked my car, and I went up to the guy to pay him. And he was so rude to me. When somebody's rude to you that you're wounded, you know that feeling? And you go, I'm hurt. And I thought, I need to get over this. So I walked to him and I came back. I need to talk to him. I said, mate, I need to talk to you. You need Jesus. He went, oh, I am a Christian. I am a Christian. I went, I don't think you are. How dare you say that? I said, you were as rude as sin to me today. I said, there's no way on this. I've been going to a church for years. I go, it's the wrong church. You didn't come with me, mate, because honestly, if you treated Peter at the Judgment Day door like that, he would not let you in. I said, well, I wouldn't treat Peter like that. I said, whoever you treat is how you treat people. It builds our faith. It gets us into conversations. It builds our confidence. How many of us were scared? How many of us were that guy that went to the party with a drink and hoped somebody talked to us? You don't like that, like, please, somebody talk to me. Somebody talk. And you sort of lean into conversations, and then people look at you like you're weird, and you sort of lean out. Even as a young Christian, I remember evangelizing, and it was in London. We were on the trains. And I was so scared I'd get the biggest Bible in the world, right? And I'd say, okay, you'd see like 5 people sitting there and there's one in the middle. And I'd sit in the middle and open up my Bible and go. And I just hoping somebody would speak to me. I remember trying to preach on the train station for the first time. And I remember going up and I went, hi everybody. And this guy got to me and said, this is the 3rd time of the week you've spoken to me. Shut up and go away. I walked to the other end. But all of those things changed my character. Evangelism is a gift. It's a gift. It helps you in your career, your jobs, everywhere. You can end up speaking to absolutely everybody. And you also learn the ability to tune out all the rubbish. You do. Whereas before you're just listening to the rubbish. They overcame. I want to live the sort of life that when I get out of bed, Satan trembles. Not when I get out of bed, he trembles. And the difference is whether I get out of bed and start praying. Some of you haven't even prayed before you came to church. And it's at 9:45. If you can't do it before church, how are you going to do it before work? But you have to leave for by 8 a.m. Be convicted. And then Satan can't win against the church. Revelation 12:13 says, when the dragon saw that he had been hurled to earth, he pursued the woman being the church, who had given birth to the male child, or Israel as it were, God's Old Testament church. The woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly to a place prepared in the desert, where she would be taken off for a time, times and half a time out of the serpent's reach. Then from the mouth the serpent spewed water like river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. But the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, those who obeyed God's commands and hold to the testimony of Jesus. So here the church, depicted as a woman, becomes the sole focus for Satan's attention. You know, as you study church history, it's messed up. Does it surprise you? That's like sending somebody to war and going, wow, they've got bullet holes. Yeah, they went to war. You know, you ever read the book of Acts and then the Apostle James gets his head cut off? And I'm like, you ever read that for the first time and go, what's going on, God? He's one of your apostles. Don't chop his head off. I mean, you know, he was with you. We need him. Sometimes bullets fly at us and we get really, really shocked. But the Lord provides protection because needed to stay out of Satan's reach. Satan spews up rivers of lies to drown out the false doctrines, but they refuse to come to them. You know, I think some people are going to be really, really shocked when scientists discover the center of the universe. Because people are going to discover that it's not them. You think about all the opinions that people have about this world and this universe, and it comes from them. You honestly think what comes out of your mouth? Just ask yourself, where did you get that load of rubbish from? YouTube. Honestly, you need to start. Well, honestly, do you read your Bible more than you watch YouTube?
Come on.
Some of us have really got to start thinking about this. One of the reasons that they did not fall prey to all these lies is that they stopped listening to them. They stopped watching the wrong shows. Honestly, some of us are researching what is the next great show that comes out on Netflix. More than how does the Old Testament connect to the New Testament.
Right.
We're so in love with the world and we don't even see it. Netflix on his right arm. Stan on his left. Prime Video on this hall. This one doesn't even own a TV. See, it's getting real now, isn't it? Because that's the thing. Satan gets into your home through subtle ways. Everybody has a TV. So I should have one because everybody has one. Right? So if everybody started killing Australians, would you join the club? Well, no, I'd never do that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the TV, but you know, like all things, they can be misused. The world follows Satan's lies. Have sex. You know, there's even, I remember when basically the pill came out, which meant that people could have safe sex. So then people started sleeping with anybody that they wanted. And there was this real theory, because I'm a little bit older than most of you here, that you needed to sleep with people before you got married to see if you were compatible. And that was one theory. Then about 10 years later, they did this survey about marriages that were more successful or less successful if you slept with the person. And those that slept with the person were less successful. You see, because they chose the marriages based on what their spouse could give to them, not what they could give to their spouse. Just another lie. Just another lie. Your career is the most important thing to you. No, it's not. They will drop you like hot potatoes as soon as they don't need you. Think about money. If money is your God, it will plague you like the devil. Because you'll never have enough of it.
Yeah.
You never ever will. And it's amazing how people get caught into these things. They really, really do. You know, why is it acceptable for someone to make bad decisions in their life that will bring them pain and destruction, and yet not acceptable for somebody to point it out? Don't judge me. You can be a real idiot, and then somebody tells you you're an idiot, and you go, you're not allowed to say that. And yet those same people criticize our government for all the hard work that they're doing.
Come on.
You know, honestly, we all have the privilege to do something stupid once in a while. But some of us really abuse that privilege. I mean, we really do. We just take it way too far. You know, I'm convinced, I know that Aaron's here and he's got to learn Mandarin. And that's a really hard language to listen to and to understand. But there is one language that people will not set their hearts to listening to and understanding. And that's the language of truth. People do not want it.
Yep.
They really don't. When was the last time you said, honestly, tell me your truthful opinion of me? Be really honest with me. Don't hold back. One thing that you see in my life that you think Satan will use to take you away. Somebody actually asked me that question this week. I thought about it, and I texted him back. I said, you are doctrinally unstable. That's your problem. You don't know your Bible, and when somebody on the street you evangelize comes up to you and gives you some other doctrine, you have to go back and really study it out, because you don't know your Bible well enough. Am I talking to him, or am I talking to you today? You know, since Satan was unable to destroy the whole church, he targeted individual Christians. It says the rest of our offspring. We need to understand that Satan is after you. If you don't value the scriptures, if you don't value relationships, let me ask you, are you an independent person? Do you even pride yourself on being independent? Nobody can tell me what to do. Shame on you. Shame on you. Do you just go and do whatever you want, whenever you want? You know, independence will kill you. It's what killed Satan. He goes, I don't want to be in unison with God. We need to be people that value unity. Unity is not valued in the world. It's not. Simply going, you know what, Elias wants to go to this restaurant, I'll just go to this restaurant because he wants to. That's what we'll do. That is so rare in today's society. Well, I just can't believe you're expecting me to do this or that. But you know what? We have the power to overcome Satan if we are focused on God, his people, his righteousness, and don't buy into the world. Point 2. Satan's 2 allies, the beasts. Okay. All right. Revelation 13:1. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads, and with 10 crowns on his horns, and each of them had a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but he had feet like those of a bear, and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and his great authority. One of the heads was the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was astonished and followed the beast. Men worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they all worshipped the beast as he asked, who is like the beast? Who can make war against him? The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies, to exercise his authority for 42 months. He opened his mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. He was given power to make war against the saints and to conquer them. And he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the book of life belonging to the Lamb that was slain from the creation of the world. He who has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to go into captivity he will go. If anyone is to be killed with a sword he will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of the saints. So Revelation 12 not only introduces us to a deeper battle between the devil and Christ, it ushers in the war that has already begun. With this assurance in mind, we're reading an account of Satan's allies and how they operate is not so fearful. So the first piece arises out of the sea. Basically, it seems like John is using the language from Daniel, which is why we started the book of Daniel before we did Revelation. So in Daniel 7 it says, Daniel said, in my vision at night I looked, and there before me were 4 winds of heaven churning up the great sea. 4 beasts, great beasts came out of different from each other, came out of the sea. So here he's describing in Daniel the 4 beasts of the political empires of his time. So from this description it then ends basically with the description of Rome. So what this is describing in Revelation, the beast is Rome. So, and the heads seem to be the head of Rome, which are the emperors, okay? And of note, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but had been healed. So Nero was the person that did the great persecution. He burned Christians. If you ever buy a Roman candle in Bunnings, just remember that expression came from a stake with a Christian put on it with tar poured over it and lit. That's what it meant to be a Roman candle. So next time you buy it, maybe don't buy it. Just remember the early saints. Okay, and but what we've got here is Nero is then killed. The Christians must have gone, yay! Then Domitian comes, another emperor who does even worse persecution. So what it seems to refer to is like the Nero, this is like another type of Nero. So in the same way that we have John the Baptist, who is like Elijah. He wasn't Elijah. So Malachi talks about Elijah will come again. John the Baptist is not actually Elijah, but he's like Elijah. And in the Bible it refers to people that are like it. So we might use that expression and go, that guy's like Hitler. Doesn't mean he is Hitler. It just means he has Hitler-like qualities. Okay? The mission of the sea beast was to utter proud words, blasphemies. Basically, Caesar then says, I am God, you must worship me as God. And of course, the Christians wouldn't do that. They're persecuted for 42 months, which is this 3.5 multiple, which is 3.5 years. The result of the mission was against heaven, the spiritual inhabitants attacking the Christians. The emperors were exalted, and they were feared. And then people were like, well, who can win against Rome? Who can make war against him? Revelation 13:4. But as we well know, that empires come and go. You know, I remember growing up, all the movies were about Russia. You know, it was always about, you know, Rambo had to go against Russia. We'll never beat Russia, and then Russia just overnight sort of imploded. Right now, it's like, what about China? What about America? What about this? You know, America went, we're going to go into Afghanistan. We're going to sort everything out. How many years did it take? And they went, well, we couldn't win that one. So it doesn't matter how strong a power gets, how much it persecutes, it's always temporary. The message of 13:10 is that just punishment of the enemies of God will definitely come. This certainly gives hope to the saints. It says this calls for patient endurance and faithfulness. I think about in Christianity, we get so impatient. We really, really do. I think it's actually something that's just a product of this generation and my generation as well. You know, people, you know, wives used to spend the whole day washing. I mean, it just used to take you all day to wash. Then you get the washing machine and go, oh, this is great. And then you used to spend the whole day cooking. And now you can just get a Marion from, you know, the Coles and Cook. But this concept of laboring over something to get a result is alien to us. I remember we had an American live with us, and obviously in America they have convenience stores everywhere. And she was ill about 2 o'clock in the morning. She tried to look up a 24-hour chemist. Okay, there is apparently one in Bankstown or somewhere. She got so ticked off, like, I can't believe you Australians, they don't have 24-hour chemists around the corner. And obviously America is further, we'll get there, I'm sure we'll get there, okay. We follow America in that way. But everybody's like, I need what I want right now. This concept of, let's just wait. Let's just wait. I'm pretty sure we used to oversee the church in Manila, and Jen got dating and engaged over the weekend. And she said, it's always worth waiting for the one. I think she's been single sister for 10 years or so. And that just really reminded me of a spiritual sister. Yeah. I think about, you know, Chi and Themis. Themis was the first Chinese convert we ever had. She walked through the door in the first year. No dating, no relationship ever in the world, waited patiently. And even in her vows, she said, and I knew this, but she said, you know, the first time she saw Chi do communion with her, I fell in love then. She'd been in love with Chi for 8 years. And most of us knew that. Does that make sense? But she waited patiently. She had to wait for Chi to date somebody else and that not to work out, etc. But she's a faithful woman. Yeah. You know, what are you frustrated about? Oh God, I managed like 2 million people this week and nobody came to church. What is wrong with you? He goes, it's a product of you not evangelizing during COVID. Because results take a long time. That's just a reality. Beast from the earth, Revelation 13:11. There's a lot more in here, obviously. It says, then I saw another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like the lamb. He spoke like a dragon. He exercised authority of the first beast on his behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. And performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of men. Because of the signs he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. He was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so they could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand and on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell anything unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. If anyone has insight, let him calculate the number of the beast. For his man's number, his number is 666. So, read the notes here, but in essence, the Jews would always talk in the Old Testament about writing the scriptures on your forehead. And they would literally strap the scriptures to their forehead. So this is basically where you do all your thinking. So if you get a knock on the head here, then your personality changes, which is why they do a lobotomy, okay, if you get a little bit crazy. So the concept is that this is what controls you. So even when we talk about the armor of God, it says the helmet of salvation. So your heart can be all over the place. But if your head is straight, you go, well, I feel like I want to run off with this person who's a non-Christian. And your head goes, that's the most stupid thing you can ever do. So you keep faithful because of what's going on in your head. So in the same way that we are marked, we are sealed with the word of God, here there is this mark on your forehead by the beast, which is you worship the emperor. So the emperors demanded that you worship them as God. So it started with Julius Caesar, who they didn't like, so they killed. And then afterwards they went, that was a bad idea, let's make him a god. Okay, and so that way we'll appease our guilt. All right, and then they started making a whole load of emperors god. And one came along and went, you know what, it's not good enough for me to be a god while I'm dead. I want to be one while I'm alive. I think that was Caligula. And so you have this emperor worship and then Rome worship. And there was actually a Roman statue that was like, we want to worship Rome. And so that's what it's all about. And yet, the mark that people receive is this mark of the beast, which is you go, yes, Caesar is God. And that may sound very weird to us coming from a Christian background, that how can a man be God? But you go to North Korea, and I was looking at the largest religions in the world. You have, Catholicism, etc. like that. One of the largest religions in the world is the worshipper of the founder of North Korea. It has, I think it's like the 5th largest religion in the world or something, or 7th. Why? Because they count everybody in North Korea as somebody in that religion. Because they are forced to worship that person as a god. And apparently now there are books on how he used to fly in the sky, and he was born by the sun, and that's how a cult really comes around. But this mark on the forehead is not what we will do as Christians. And then it talks about how the fact that everybody needs to worship him if they were going to have, could buy or sell. So everybody used to have to go into a little temple every year, get some incense and go, Caesar is Lord. In other words, the latest Caesar, he is God. If you didn't do that, then you wouldn't get your national insurance number, and therefore you couldn't actually get a job and you couldn't trade. That was what was literally going on. And then we'll finish off with this. What about the big number 666? Well, actually, if we look here, it talks about how it is man's number. It's not the number of a man. Okay, so it's not Hitler or anything like that. And there are many, many books written, and if you get a book that's like 100 years old, it was Napoleon. Okay, and you get a book that's 50 years old, it was Hitler. And I'm sure if you buy a book today, it was Trump. Okay, now he's gone. And people want to fantasize. In other words, people want to make the Bible something it is not. But it's man's number. So God's number is 7. And so 777 is complete perfection. 666 is man's number, which is we are completely imperfect. Now there may have been some reference to it being Nero, because apparently if you translate this into Hebrew, and all Hebrew letters have a number association, it would spell Nero. So there may have been some play on words like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean Nero. How do we know that? Well, he's talking about being persecuted now, and Nero is dead. So it can't have been Nero himself, but it may have been reference to a Nero-like person. So 6 is a fall short of God, which we all fall short. But somebody who's 666 is somebody that has thrown themselves so into the world that they become so evil. Does that make sense? So Hitler would be a representative of 666, just like Nero. He genuinely believes that the world is everything and he can dominate him and he becomes God. That's basically what it means overall. So where do we go with all of this? And again, Revelation has a lot. So even just trying to do 2 chapters in 45 minutes, that's why there are notes, okay? Behind the scenes. Okay, so behind the scenes today, this week, who have you been listening to? Okay, it's a lot easier to find one of these on Halloween than it is one of these. There's an insight for you this week, okay? Did you see anybody, Halloween is all about demons there. Actually, the 1st of October is All Saints Day. See any parties today for All Saints Day? No, you don't. And you say that the world is not gripped by Satan. People would much rather walk around like this, dressed up last night, than they would like this. What is going on behind the scenes? There is a fight for your soul. If you are not aware of it, you will not see Satan through your boss, through your workmates, through your friends, through your family. Satan cannot prevail. He can prevail in your life, but he will not prevail total. And then he has 2 allies. Well, his allies at the time were Rome and the worship of Rome. What is the equivalent today? Is it Australia? Is it America? Is it Hollywood? Is it Netflix? You can see Satan in all of them. Don't need to discuss exactly what it is, but you can recognize what's coming into your heart. Your best friend and your worst enemy are in this room right now. And you must choose who you will make your friend, God or Satan. But beware of who you will choose, for only one is forever loyal, and the other will drop you as soon as he gets bored of you. You go, well, I'll remain neutral. Neutral people are the devil's advocate.